I'm glad you're like calling that out, Flo, because think about athletes and people who perform for a living. They practice, what is it, like 85, 90% of the time, and then they're only on for such a short amount of time. And when you use that as a parallel for leaders who it's really important when they communicate, but they don't practice communicating, it's just a big disadvantage.
Welcome to The Format by Chorus Studios. Technology is always changing, and so is the format, or how we produce and consume media. The Format is a monthly newsletter on Substack and a podcast, where I, Flo of Chorus Studios, talk to you, producers, co-hosts, founders, about the newest and the best practices in podcasting today and tomorrow. From technique to technology, we will explore what new AI tools are podcasters using and why. How to prep for a podcast interview as a host or a guest. Which mics are best for your budget? And even, what happens in your brain when you listen to a podcast? These are all questions I will be asking on The Format. So I hope you'll join me on The Format on Substack.
Hello.
Yay.
Alison and Lauren.
Hi.
You both look and sound lovely.
Don't make me turn red.
Alison, have you recorded a podcast before?
One other time for USC.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and it was the same thing. It was a Instagram Live. Have you guys done an Instagram Live?
Yes,
No,
during the
actually.
pandemic.
They're unforgiving.
So I brought you here today because I like you both a lot, and I thought it'd be fun to talk about your careers and what brought you both individually into coaching. Alison, do you want to start us off?
So my background started in marketing and brand strategy. And really, it was all about understanding people, what motivated them, what stories were resonating, and how organizations communicated that to them. The work of conscious leadership, shout out to 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership, that took me on the path of realizing that I can merge mindfulness and awareness with the workplace. That to me was like, whoa, what? You mean I don't have to wear a mask at work? I don't have to feel exhausted at the end of the day? So for me, that's when the work really started. I started coaching and leading on the side while still working full-time as head of marketing. And I just came to realize that I just couldn't do it anymore, that there was a much bigger role for me to step into than the one I was currently at. And so now I work with ambitious leaders who feel stretched on the edge typically, or responsible for getting things right all the time. And I help them stay steady and learn ways to really show up in a different way when pressure and circumstances are high.
Love that.
Yeah.
Lauren, you want to give us your version of how you came to be a coach?
Sure. Yeah. And Alison, I love hearing your story and just the cool routes that we all kind of take to get to coaching. I was really lucky to land a job at Red Hat, where I learned the world of leadership development. And we taught lots of leaders how to lead. And that can look so many ways, I've learned. But the biggest piece of feedback we always got was they loved meeting other leaders. So the network and relationship building, they got so much out of that. And the other piece was coaching. They were like, oh, I get a lot out of this whole coaching thing. So of course that opened the door for me. I'm like, I want to know more about this, and got my certifications and just fell in love with the whole thing about it, which is a lot of what Alison already shared. And so fast forward, now I'm working kind of more in a specific area of leadership development that is on executive presence and communication, because that is one facet, right, of how you show up as a leader, how you support people, and how they perceive you, right? So I get to do work right now in a studio in Durham, North Carolina, where we practice like showing up authentically and being yourself, and a lot of like high stakes moments we can actually practice, because leaders don't get a chance to do that, which is so crazy to me. We just expect people to show up. And like Alison was saying, like when you're under pressure, it's really hard sometimes. So anyway, that's kind of where the coaching journey has led me. And it's been fun.
I love that. Because I know it's pretty much always on camera, but it's not only for camera, for video, it's for just seeing how you show up, like rehearsing, like if you were rehearsing for a play or something, you know?
Great call out. Yes. I don't want it to be interpreted as like, and then we take all the content and turn it into stuff for YouTube. No. Actually, we usually say like, we might not keep any of this. And we do delete it at the end. So yes, to your point, it's all for the sake of practice. It's not for performance. It's really more like, let's practice and let you see you using video as a tool. Like, how do I show up? And then go from there.
I hadn't really thought of it that way, even though I actually worked for that company Better On and doing some before and after video editing for them. And I like the way you just framed it. I'm like, oh, I need that.
I mean, we all kind of do. Alison and I were talking, and I'm not immune to it either. Like as soon as we jumped on this call, we're like, oh, we're kind of nervous because we're going to be recorded, right? And it's unnatural, and it's kind of a newer phenomenon for our day and age, right? 100 years ago, it's like, what? That wasn't a thing. And so I think, our nervous systems just get kind of ramped up where it's like, oh, I'm being watched, right?
But yeah, and whether it's video recording or presenting to your clients or your peers, your higher ups, like I know I've had opportunities to do that where I wish I had practiced more, you know, because I felt like I could have done a better job. And yeah, like you said, I mean, I didn't put those two things together, but whenever I do a podcast, I have to edit it. When I'm playing the host, I get to watch myself back, you know, and it's kind of hard. Sometimes I put it off because I'm like, I don't want to watch myself or hear myself, you know, but then I always get something out of it. Like I'm mixing my words up, and then when I'm trying to edit it, I'm stopping in between words, and I need to finish my words, even if it's the wrong word, you know?
Yeah.
And then it's just little things like that, like a little speech idiosyncrasies that you don't notice unless you record yourself, you get to learn about, which is cool.
I'm glad you're like calling that outflow, because think about athletes and people who perform for a living. They practice, what is it, like 85, 90% of the time, and then they're only on for such a short amount of time. And when you use that as a parallel for leaders who it's really important when they communicate, but they don't practice communicating, it's just a big disadvantage. I think giving the space to do that is really helpful.
I was going to agree. I think that's where that whole 10,000 hours, putting in the 10,000 hours really pay off. It's knowing that, okay, this is just part of my 10,000 hours in practicing and being able to see yourself and hear yourself afterwards. You realize like, okay, this is a good tool for feedback to understand where are my areas of opportunity, rather than feeling bad about yourself, just recognizing that, oh, this is just part of my journey, the 10,000 hours I need to accumulate here.
We've established that practicing and presenting is important. It's part of the process of growth as a leader. And then, Alison, let's talk a little bit about the way we communicate. Both of you can speak to this. You know, how can we show up authentically, whether it's in person or on a podcast recording? Is there a difference between presence and performance?
For sure. Right, Lauren? Yeah. I would say that presence, well, I'll start with performance first. Performance, you want to try to sound a little polished, smart. You don't really have time to think. You're not really listening either. So I think if you're a host, for example, of a podcast, if you're just performing, you're not really connecting with the other person on the other side. You're not creating space for your guests to feel relaxed or at ease. I would think that that also prevents not just honesty, but insight and stories and vulnerabilities to come out when you're performing. Rather than being fully present, you're responding to what's actually happening in the moment. You're taking time to pause, to get curious, and allow yourself to just be human and vulnerable. I mean, Lauren and I talked a little bit about, and you too, Flo, in stating that, hey, we were a little nervous right before, and we had to reach into what grounds us before jumping on, even though it's a conversation amongst friends. So that's how I would see performance and presence as differentiation. I mean, as it differentiators.
What about you, Lauren?
Yeah, I'm just taking it all in because as soon as, it's almost like we work with people a lot on eye contact. And as soon as you think about eye contact, you end up like looking at the place you're supposed to look. And so, Allison, as you're talking about, true presence and listening being a big component of that, I'm like, I'm just listening. Stop planning what I'm going to say, and I'm just listening.
Yeah.
And it's a good invitation. And the thing that I've learned, and I like the distinction around, just because it sounds like so human, like to be present, right? To not be worrying about the past and to not be fearful about the future, but in the present moment, it doesn't mean that it's easy. Kind of like, when you're like, just be yourself. Like, it doesn't really mean that it's easy. And I think that's some baggage we put onto it, or I do at least. And so this reminder of the fact that, like, yes, it's where we want to be, and it's where like the best place to live feels is in the present. However, it takes constant work, kind of like meditation, to come back to the present and be like, I know there's all this chaos around me. And in the moment, I choose to be present. And I think it's so hard sometimes, but I do think it's worth it. I think a lot of people forget that or don't pursue it because they're like, oh, it's too hard, or it should be easy, and it's not. So it's not for me. It's like, maybe reframe it.
In my experience as a podcast producer and host, it's hard to qualify it, but I can feel when we're present and when someone's present. And also as a podcast listener, I can feel when people are present. One sign of presence is joy and fun, when people are laughing together, having real reactions to things people are saying in the moment. I feel like that's a sign of presence and connection. And I just think we're just all so curious about each other. We want to understand each other. We want to feel connected to each other. So when you're being present, others are being present, or you're observing other people being present, it's a good feeling. It's where we want to be. So
Yeah. It's the getting out of your head a bit too, I think, is one of the indicators. Maybe. Which is hard to do.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, think about the last time you were in your head, and in our heads, we're constantly living in loops, and being able to be present, we kind of break out of that loop for a little bit. There's a great exercise that I like to start to be able to break through vulnerability for people. And what they learn is that there's all these repressed emotions that they feel. And so oftentimes with this exercise, people either cry, laugh, feel very uncomfortable. And that's the present moment. Like, that's what presence feels like. It feels like all these feelings and emotions, but really it's so divine and often missed because we don't like feeling maybe the way that we're feeling. So we grab our phone. We like to just, distract ourselves with everything other than being still and being present. Yeah. I don't know. I just
love that. Well, now I want to do the exercise.
I know, me too.
I don't know if I want to cry, but I guess I could.
I guess it could stay open, right? We're
I
open
mean,
to
it might make the episode better.
We'll have to do it when we're together because it's really just, it's eye gazing. I'm sure. Yeah. Which I'm sure you guys are going to do in Nicaragua soon. So just eye gazing for 5 minutes, just knee to knee, sit in, crisscross style and just like touch each other's knees and then just face each other, look at each other for 5 minutes and see what happens. See what you feel come up for you. Don't judge it. Just allow it to be there.
I did that in Costa Rica 3 years ago at this wellness retreat called Blue Spirit in Nosara. And don't think I'd ever, I've been in acting classes and stuff where I'm sure we had to look at each other for a long period of time. But this was like, just like you said, sitting and staring into each other's eyes, not talking, moving, anything. And yeah, it was a memorable experience. I highly recommend. It's a great human experience to have.
I'm part of the club too. It's been like 12 years ago, probably, but I haven't done it since, Allison. So maybe it's time, Flo. Maybe we need to do it
Yeah,
again.
you and I.
Please do it.
On the beach.
Please do it on the beach.
For the audience, I don't think we've told them Lauren and I are going to Nicaragua next week. So
We have some time to stare into each other's eyes. But really, I do have a vivid memory of that from 12 years ago and the person I did it with and where we were. And it
Totally.
felt like an eternity because it was
Yes.
a little uncomfortable, but it was very powerful.
So, presence versus performance, we feel like you guys have seen in your work that it makes a difference just in terms of connection and showing up. And I do think in terms of like presenting or podcasting or anything that, you know, you kind of have to have like what I'm doing right now. I have an outline of things I want to talk about, but I'm also trying to be present. It's a little different because I'm not going to be repeating this over and over again. But if I was giving like a pitch that I was going to be repeating over and over again, I feel like practice also allows you to be present because then you're not so focused on remembering what you're needing to say. You can kind of let your, like an athlete, you like, what is it, muscle memory? Brain muscle memory go, and then put more of your self into it and be more in the present. So, you know, maybe there's a sweet spot there.
I think it's so true. I think if you have to have a script, right? And a lot of times we do. And sometimes I can demonize content and I'm like, oh, wait, I don't need to do that. Because of course the words we say matter so much, right? But to your point, Flo, if you can have time to practice that at home and then bring the muscle memory of those words and then be open to the moment. And a lot of that is like in the delivery and the connection with your audience. And you never know what's going to come up, especially with a live audience, right? Or even here, it's like, we don't know. We're looking at each other's faces. We're reading the virtual room. And then to be able to respond to that in terms of like, you can break it down. It gets really detailed, right? But your voice, your facial expression, your body language, like all of that brings so much to how you communicate to someone, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. It's the nonverbal cues that show whether you're present, whether you're reading a script or not. You could be present with what you're saying, with what you're reading off a script. Yeah, it's those nonverbal cues that really, really matter. That's the context versus content piece. It's not so much what you're saying, it's how you're saying it that makes a difference.
Yeah.
There's a great Maya Angelou quote, just want to drop in here, that's people don't often remember the words you say to them, but they always remember how you make them feel. So I think that just encapsulates that really well of kind of the energy you bring, right?
Lauren, snapping my fingers for that one.
Sorry.
Great shout out.
I love her.
Maya Angelou. No, she's the best. Allison, do you want to talk a little bit about your methodology that you've developed? And I know it's not oriented to podcasting or cameras, but I just think it's really interesting.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is like the business impact that like conscious leadership, for example, can make. So yeah, often leaders, what they tend to focus on is the strategy. How are we going to meet our numbers? What are our business goals and objectives? That's usually what year-end looks like for every leader. And in the beginning, it's all about implementing. But what often gets overlooked is the human behavior underneath it. What human behaviors are preventing you or are going to prevent you from achieving those goals, business goals and objectives? And that's where I step in. I like to understand, okay, where is you're at A, what does B look like? And what are the steps that are going to help you get there? What are the behaviors that are currently preventing you from getting there based off of previous experience? And what we uncover together is that either roles are unclear, people are avoiding certain conversations with one another, also reaction under pressure. Those are usually what tends to prevent teams from meeting their business goals and objectives. A lot of teams like to call it healing in some spaces. We need to heal as a team together because we don't really trust each other. That's where a lot of friction tends to live. So I help guide them through that friction and bringing more clarity so that achieving those business goals and objectives actually are met.
I love that.
Are you working, Alison, remind me, with individuals or teams as a whole, or both?
Yeah, good question. So I tend to start with individuals. I work with individuals and then I meet the team and then do bigger work there. And that tends to be more of, I call it an experience, rather than a workshop for a facilitation, because we're going to experience something together. What that may look like can be different for each team.
So it sounds like you partner with the leader to bring that experience to life.
Yeah, so I do partner with the leader first, and then we work with their team to understand, okay, who are our advocates? Who's going to be the implementer? We start identifying those team members, and then what is preventing them from achieving their goals. But I like to coach the client, the leader, first, so that they can become the coach for their team. I don't want to necessarily go in and hero and jump in and do the things for the leader. That's not my role. My role is to be able to either help the leader become more of a coach, a healthy challenger, or understand how they're co-creating whatever issues they're being faced with. So living out of a presence triangle.
I wish I had you to work with any and every team I've ever been on at work, because I think I'm a little bit of a hypersensitive person, and I'll take responsibility for my more sensitive feelings.
So being able to see that this is not healthy, there's no innovation, there's no creativity, there's a lack of collaboration, this all hurts the bottom line. You know, so, and Lauren, I know last time we all got together, we talked about leaders eating last. I started listening to that book.
Shout out Simon Sinek, Leaders Eat Last.
Yes.
And yeah, as you're talking about leaders, it also makes me think about an organization or a group of leaders equals the structure they work in or the culture, right? And so I found working with leaders, it, of course, is worth the investment to focus in on those people because they have the ripple effect to work with their teams. But then also reading that book reminded me some cultures are just not the right structures that value like humans over profit, for example. And I think that we see that a lot in our current society, which is unfortunate. And maybe we'll find a breaking down of that. But I think it's really hard for even good leaders to operate inside of sort of kind of wonky or toxic structures, right? Where incentives are, to me, in the wrong spot. So I think it's a hard time for leaders right now, even good ones, but we still need them.
Yeah, you're
Makes
absolutely
sense.
right.
They're getting a lot of, if it's a big company like Amazon, they've got all these shareholders breathing down their neck about, I know I just saw today they did more cuts on the robotics team of all teams at Amazon. You wouldn't think they'd be cutting the robotics team, but they are, because they need to increase profits, you know? It leads me to an idea that I wanted to propose to get your feedback. As budgets are shrinking for the human side of things to be efficient, that's leadership development, that's, you know, career development programs at companies, but they're still putting a lot of money into their marketing and sales, right? So what could we do? They don't realize, like, people want to buy from other people. You know, they want to know who they're doing business with and what their values are. I mean, to a degree, like when I buy a car, I'm like, who's running this company? What's the car? You know, I think about the implications of where my money is going as much as I can. And the people that represent your business are representing the values of your business. And so why can't we use on camera or podcasting training as like a way to create leadership development programs that could also help them with sales and marketing? It actually all feeds together. It's just, I feel like companies are separating it, like leadership is a waste of money, but really you need leadership to get great sales and marketing, I think.
Yeah, I love that idea. Maybe something around how they are all tied together, right? How amplifying the message that, yeah, good longevity and profits long term for companies actually equal having good leaders leading and good people in those roles, right? And so it's not, to your point, it's not a separate thing. It's all one and the same. But I think that is a long-term game and not a short-term one. And so that's kind of the disconnect where people are like, no, 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 we
Oh, yeah.
maximize value here over these quarters, but what you don't see is the long-term impact of that and how it underperforms a company who is more, has their eyes on the longer-term goal. So there's something there. I don't know
Yeah,
the answer, but there's something
I,
there.
I feel that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think being able to see the cross-functional attributes that podcasting and leadership could have, I think there's so many, and what I would say is that it reveals how someone's going to show up under pressure, how they're going to take control over the conversation, and if they're comfortable feeling authentic, getting authentic in front of a camera and being authentic. So I would say that having a platform or being a podcaster and entering maybe a space that is more regulated, like a corporate environment, you could sell that your presence on camera shows your sense of curiosity and your ability to communicate clearly within, a time frame.
Well, I want you guys to help me get more present or help us all. I've challenged you guys to bring some kind of little exercise to the table to share.
Yeah, I was going to see, Allison, do you have kind of an exercise? Because I have more prompt questions that are helpful if someone's already in a space of being a little more grounded. But I wasn't sure what
Okay.
you were going to
Yeah, no. So I can kick
share.
it off
Cool.
and then you could finish it off for us and leave
Cool.
them
Yeah, I'll jump in.
with questions. Okay, cool. All right. So I would invite you both to just close your eyes with me. Just feel the seat underneath you, supporting you. Feel your feet on the ground. And just tap into your regular breath. Mentally bring your gaze to the tip of your nose. And just stay with me on your breath. Inhale when you're ready. Hold it at the top. And exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the nose. Hold it at the top. And exhale through the mouth. We're just going to do this one more time. Inhale through the nose. Hold it at the top. Sip a little bit more. And exhale through the mouth. Now just go back to your regular breath. Just start to think of the sensations going through your body. Imagine those sensations just being billions of little bits just going through your body. What are those little bits doing? Are they twisting? Are they popping? Are they flowing? Are they spinning? Allow them to rise. Bring another inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. And when ready, start to blink your eyes open. Welcome back. So that is just to help guide you when you're feeling certain sensations. that may be either anxiety or stress, or even high levels of joy can cause and be confused with anxiety. These are just to be able to welcome them there, allow them to be there. You don't have to accept them, just allow them. And maybe at some point you can appreciate those sensations running through your body. Because oftentimes it's the energy that is in motion that's causing this. And it's just being able to stay grounded from within, regardless of whatever is happening outside of you.
So good.
Thank you, Alison.
That leads nicely into, from a grounded place, a couple of reflection questions or prompts. If you're a nerd like me and journal often, they're nice ones to just reflect on. So maybe not in this very moment, but something to kind of tuck away and reflect on later. But I was influenced by two teachers recently. One of them is a cardiologist, Dr. Jonathan Fisher, and he just wrote a book called Just One Heart that talks about how to holistically care for heart and not just the physical. And he led us through a meditation similar to yours, Alison, and then just asked for everyone to take their right hand and put it on your heart. We can do that too, since we're here. And to just kind of rest your eyes or close them, if that feels comfortable, and check in specifically with your heart. And to ask the question, heart, what do you need? You can open your eyes and take your hand down. But depending on how busy our minds are, it usually overtakes any messages we might get from our hearts directly. And so doing something to ground us and then checking in, I find often a word or an image might come to mind. And I've started to do this more on a daily basis this past week, and it's been really insightful. One more reflection question I'll leave you with from a woman who's an author and speaker, Meg Wheatley. I got to meet her at a retreat over the summer, and she raised a question around, what do I want to contribute? What is my contribution? Which I love, this reframe of like, what do I want or what do I need, in kind of a more selfish way, and more of, it's just a human thing to want to contribute. And when we don't get a chance to do that, it feels like we're being left out, right? And so my belief is that all of us are here on this planet because we do have something to contribute, and it's part of our roles as leaders of our own lives to figure out what that is and to reflect on it. And that can change over time, right? So it's an important question to keep asking ourselves and keep showing up in the world with, how can I contribute today? What can I contribute? Those are my two questions I'm going to leave you guys with.
Love that.
Yay.
Bravo.
Thank you guys. Wow, you guys, I love, you're both so smart. Surprise me with the best things.
So fun.
Yeah, they say you're the average of, 10 people? I love counting you both within my average, knowing that you both contribute so much to the world around you. So thank you.
Thank you. And we all need to hang out more.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I agree.
We're going to go to Nicaragua next year.
Yes.
I know.
Yeah.
Between then, we could go get some lunch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. For
Keep
sure.
it close to home. But thanks for
I
bringing
would
us
love it.
together and flow.
You're welcome. Yeah, this was
Yeah.
great.
Thank you for listening to The Format. Head to substack.com, that's substack.com, to subscribe to The Format on Substack for our next monthly episode and blog about the future of podcasting. Stay real.